welcome back to the Parkour UK podcast. You know who it is. We've got Dominic D. Tomaso. His real name is not Dom Tomato, despite what some people might think, on the couch with us. Very special day. And I'm just going to start how we always start. Thanks for coming, and how'd you get started in parkour?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, pretty exciting to be on the pod. Mate, I feel like I've answered that question like a billion times in my life. But the short version is I was watching Naruto, and then I was looking up ninja stuff on YouTube, which led me to a guy jumping through a shopping mall. And I was like, that looks pretty cool. And then the next video was the Russian climber parkour video by Oleg Vorslav. And I was like, you can do that? You can just go out in the street and jump on stuff? So I took a friend from class, went out on my lunch break, started jumping over like little like school table setups and just whatever we could get our hands on. And pretty much from that day, have never really stopped doing parkour.
What age was that again?
I was 15 years old in 2007.
Wow.
Yeah, and just obsessed with it still to this day. Love doing it.
Oh, that means you're 1 year away from the 20-year club. The very exclusive club.
Yeah. I'm 19 years in. So.
Mate, awesome. No, and I love it when you've had to answer that question a million times, because you always, the more you answer a question, the more you boil down like the best concise answer.
Yeah. I know exactly what happened to lead me into parkour.
Beautiful. All right. So, we're going to get into all things, your career and so on, but before, and how you achieved the level that you've sort of at. But before we do that, I want to briefly touch on how you became such a community champion, in the sense that you always champion, you always support people in the community. I've got my own theory on this, because obviously we're both from Sydney, and I feel like that community is very built that way. But in your content, if you've ever met Dom, if you ever trained with Dom, there's a real sense of like, you genuinely want people to do well and to support them to achieve like their jumps, whatever they're trying to do. So where do you think that stems from? That drive to like want the best for others?
I mean, it's probably a multi-layered answer like anything else, but I think originally doing figure skating growing up, the competition mentality was very different. There was almost an element where competitors and competitors' coaches and parents were trying to like psych out the other children. And these are children, and they're trying to like completely like play mind games and like how your practice goes and how you present yourself during the practice. And like, I don't know, there's all these like little intricacies that were like built into the sport of, and you have to get like so locked in, so focused. Like people are like in the most pressure-filled situation of their lives before they go out for that routine on the ice, and everything's culminating in this one moment. And I just hated that.
So it's hyper-competitive.
Yeah, it's hyper-competitive. And my mum would always just like reaffirm to us, like, go out there and have fun. If you're having fun, you'll do good. You know what I mean? And that's the only thing that you should be worrying about. Were you having a good time? You've worked really hard. Now go out there and give it the best you've got. That sort of thing. So that definitely taught me about not being as competitive towards the other athletes that were in the sport. I just thought, we're all here to have a good time. The cards will fall where the cards will fall.
That's so topical as well, because the biggest story of the Winter Olympics was Alyssa Liu, who fell out of love with the sport because it was too competitive, it was too intense, and despite being so talented, stopped figure skating for a couple of years, came back and had a different mentality and just went out there with the intention to have fun, exactly like that. And the whole world has seen it, and she's become this superstar off the back of it. So just because you mentioned the figure skating, that's it's such proof that is the way to achieve your best, right?
Yeah, it's ingrained in our cultures to put like more and more pressure on these things, especially when more and more finance, money, acclaim is involved. But really, at the end of the day, the best products you see are from people who are passionate about what they do and they love doing it. Therefore, they're putting the most intention, the most like dedication into it, because it's coming from a really pure place.
So is that passion then what you think drives you to like be gassed for other people and to support them when they're trying to hit jumps and stuff?
Yeah, I think the way I feel when I achieve, whether it be like the biggest front flip I've ever done or like a tiny little 360 precision on a rail or so, like something that's a little bit tricky for me and I managed to nail it, the internal gratification I feel from that is huge. And I want everybody to experience that, and externally validating that can encourage them to take notice of the success that they've had and use that as a building block of confidence instead of just the singular challenge they did and be like, oh, cool, yeah, it took me longer than I wanted to do it. Like there's, I don't know, inherently I'm a very positive, outlooking person. And to your point earlier about Sydney Parkour, I think seeing particularly Ista Ho, who made Novel Ways clothing.
Yeah, Novel
but
Ways is Reach Escape, by the way.
yeah,
OG from Sydney made that brand. A lot of people don't know that it's actually from Australia.
some incredible Sydney Parkour lore right there.
Yeah.
But him and the other athletes, but particularly Ish, they really like took younger athletes in Sydney Parkour under their wing and, you know, provided them with more insights into the sport, encouragement about how their journey was going. He did it with so many athletes like Antek Marciniak, James Wise, myself, Master Marks. He did so many things for us as like young, not only like coming of age adults, but coming of age athletes, and really pushing us to do more and more. You know, he was the first person to give us all any sort of sponsorship with the shirts, you know, any sort of endorsement where, you know, this is a business he was building, but he believed in us enough as athletes to represent his brand on screen. So
and then I guess he takes pride in all of your successes because he's invested in you guys and he's really like just wants to see you do well, right?
Yeah, it's like a big brother kind of, you know, like big brother, little brother programs that they have overseas. It's kind of like that. And, you know, often people ask me like, oh, do you coach? And I'm like, well, not really, because like when you're instructing somebody to begin parkour, yes, there is totally an instruction phase where you want to teach them the fundamental techniques and the core of it. But when I'm training with other athletes, I don't see myself as a coach. We're like, you know, at maximum split of dynamic, it's mentor-mentee. But it's just me imparting like any wisdom I have into the challenge they're doing and watching them grow on their journey the same way that I feel like Ish takes pride in that journey. It's like having just been a part of someone's success makes you personally more invested in that journey.
100%.
And, you know, it builds friendships, it builds a nice rapport. And I think also, this is like I said on the Story podcast the other day, there's like 16 people doing parkour. Like, why aren't trying to champion every single person? Doesn't make any sense to me until, you know, we're at the stage of football and, you know, there's millions of teams worldwide and the money's so low, then maybe you can pick and choose a bit more. But until that stage, we're just a little niche community. We should be like trying to celebrate each individual that's coming into the sport. And if we want more people to do the sport, making it more accessible in the way of what's really special about the sport, the community value.
Supporting them. Yeah, because we're still absolutely in the stage of a rising tide lifts all boats. It's not like we've got this many leagues and there's like 120 places for professionals and we're all cutthroat trying to compete for them. Like that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
We need to uplift everyone to try and create that, right?
That's my theory on it anyway. And yeah, I mean, being a somewhat of a social outcast growing up, or like just like you know, I've always been very extroverted and very social, but I just definitely felt like I didn't fit in.
Yeah.
And there wasn't like a place for me in the world when I was younger, in my teen years. And parkour, for me, gave me that purpose that I was looking for. And it still to this day does, which I'm very grateful for, like having something that fulfills you that doesn't require any other external gratification for many, many years. Like you can just do personally as like a meditation is a great thing to be able to have consistently for that long of a time.
Yeah, like purpose. And then also, would you say that you found your people in terms of like the community? And
yeah, I feel like I was the most accepted by any sport, faction, creed, cult, whatever you want to call parkour, than anybody else in the world. And so a part of me feels like a duty to shepherd those ones who maybe are a little bit like, you know, feeling left out or feel like they're not getting along in the social structure of parkour, and why I encourage so hard the elite athletes and people who are of prominence in the sport to have like heart and soul for the, maybe you don't like going to jams, but there's a part of you that would have great impact on the sport by, you know, attending more jams and being more seen at the, if you're an elite level athlete, being seen and participating in more, what I would say, lifestyle level events and jams. It doesn't just have to be these elite competitions, and it doesn't just have to be the biggest jams in the world. Like getting out in your local community and getting amongst it, even if you don't vibe everybody there, what you're doing is cultivating a closeness in the sport that gives us all this attainable rope between whatever levels people perceive. Because I guess that's where it comes down to, is because there is no grading system in parkour and there is no such thing as the best at parkour, I think we are all on the same playing field. That's why when I go to a jam, I'm happy to train with anyone, because we're all doing the same thing. Whether I've done all this stuff or not, that doesn't change the session that I'm about to have where both of us can't make this Kong Pre because it's lower to the ground. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't change any of that. We're all the same.
Absolutely. And so we're one of the few sports as well where it's like when you go to a jam, you say, I train with that person, even if you didn't actually do the same jumps as them. We're like that. For me, it boils down to two things in parkour, the way I like to describe it. One is that effort is applauded above all others, you know? So yes, comparison can be the thief of all joy sometimes, but when someone is trying hard to do any challenge and you know they're pushing hard for their level, that is what we'll applaud and that's what we'll support, and we'll get gas for them because we know how that would feel for ourselves, right? You know, and being a hyper passionate parkour athlete myself, like I do resonate with that for sure.
No.
yeah, 100%.
Mr. Too excited about every single thing in parkour.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for me, like my goal when I go out to a session is one, to do something sick for myself. Like that's totally my goal. And failing that is to support someone else to do something sick and live vicariously through them. You know. Yeah,
really, living vicariously through it is a great way to put it. It's like I get like selflessness out of it, whereas like I get the joy of seeing you achieve and that emotional elation that I would feel of me doing the challenge. And again, as you said, it feels good when people do it for me, so I like to do it for others, you know. Do as others how you would have do unto you.
And it's actually not entirely selfless, like you say. Like someone's doing a challenge, like they're my friend. I want them to achieve the challenge, but then I invest in them. I'm there supporting them through their attempts. I give them a couple of tips that make them get it, or I give them some motivation when they were going to walk away that pushes them to do it. I take pride in that challenge, you know. I'm like 100%. I'm like, I contributed to that. So there's definitely an element of that. Yeah.
I think it's like joining. Like that's where the team aspect of parkour comes into it. We are just like, it is an individual sport and it's everyone's individual journey for sure. But we are like one giant team trying to push forward what the capabilities and fundamental skills of each other and also skills of the human body are. I mean, I think about when I started parkour and in the Sydney parkour instructor training, we were breaking down the technique of a stride. Like how fundamentally, because like Phil Doyle had just started doing them everywhere and we were like, oh God, we need to like catch up. So we had like a full on like nerdy ass breakdown of how to do a stride the most effectively, the most efficiently, and like had like a think tank on it. And you think about how fundamental of a technique a stride and normal a stride is now in parkour and how many things have been developed like that by so many different sources. I mean, when you think about like the evolution of the congainer to the evolution of the castaway to the evolution of the double flips to the evolution of like the reverse vault, then suddenly flip precisions, you know, there's like all these things that have just been slowly curated over time that then become normalized in the stream. And then
and the level's always growing.
It's always growing. It's constantly changing.
And so it's on that point, like what you attribute your own progression to, right? So I feel like you've obviously achieved like a super high level, and I wonder what your take is on this, because the way I sometimes describe your progression to people is I feel like you're one of the only athletes in the sport who's had linear progression. In terms of, it might not be true, but most people like, I feel like go up and then they lose stuff and they come back. I feel like you've slowly progressed every day for like almost 20 years. Is that accurate or is that like way off the mark?
No, I think it's definitely, I mean, if you looked at the scale from far away 20 years, yes, it would be a linear progression. Absolutely. But if you like zoom in, it is constant little dip and rise, dip and rise, dip and rise, dip and rise. That I think
it's like the stock market, mate.
Yeah, but that's the stocks are always going up, buddy.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah. But the nature of the beast is that you're not going to be able to retain every single skill you learn along the way, and you know there's only so much physical input that you can have with skill and exchange and physical output that you can do with the training. So
there's so many movements as well, right?
Yeah, and I think one of my things is that I didn't rely on indoor or gym training while simultaneously wanting to have all the hard tricks. And so I had to very much pick and choose my battles of where I would try things, and as opposed to letting a desire for a specific movement or trick or achievement drive me. I would more go to the spot and be like, oh, I could try this thing here that I've been wanting to try. And it's very much driven from my environment around me. That would then, like, that's why every time I come to England, I'm like 3 times better at parkour, because the spots are way better. Like, it's
that's
not,
a great point.
you know, I just happen to go out with other world-class athletes who have ideas, and I'm like, oh, I could put myself in that situation and do it. Because that's what I have, when you say linear progression, now I definitely feel like I'm at a very good stage of physical and mental autonomy. I have a very clear understanding of what my capabilities are, and there's certain things that I find easy that others find hard. But there's also stuff that I find super difficult that I know, like a double full is never going to be an easy move for me. Like that, but it's something that other people can do, and I think is incredible.
This is the other way that I and some other people, like, I guess almost jokingly describe you, your like level in parkour and the way you train, which is that most people often train like at like 100% of their mental capability and 60, 70, 80% of their physical, whereas you're regularly up, you know, in the 90s on both to 100. Like, you're regularly pushing both to the absolute limit. Like, I don't know what do you attribute that just bravery, you know, because that's always been your biggest strength, right? It's not like supreme athleticism. You absolutely have a bit of that, and your drop taking is obviously top tier, but it's the mental game, right? Is there any sort of knowledge you can impart on that? Have you always had that? Like,
I've always been an incredibly confident person, like whether that be through just parkour or like social, like balls to the wall confident. But then also doing competitive ice skating for my entire childhood. And as I said, working to that Antithesis moment and doing everything on the line, working to that. And like, you know, we were doing 6 major competitions a year from the age of 9 till 17.
So you know how to turn it on.
Yeah, there was like, you had to bring the thunder when it was appropriate. And you learn coping mechanisms about failure, dealing with injury, the level of training that you need to do to achieve the level you want, all these sorts of things that go into it, that when it came to parkour, because I had such a burning and desiring passion for it, I knew that I was able to transfer that quality of like athletic training to it.
Yeah.
And then
that mindset.
Yeah. And then there was like, I definitely feel fear like anybody else.
That's a common misconception that the best like parkour athletes or whatever are not scared. It's more that
I'm scared all the time.
Yes. It's more that they can deal with it and they have mechanisms and all that kind of stuff. It's not that the fear is just less, right?
Yeah. No, it's not less. It's the way personally I process it is acknowledgement and then compartmentalization.
Right.
Like, I often see myself hit the wall like I did in Frankfurt. Like that little head slapper to the big viral clip.
Yeah.
I often see that, like, I'm like, like something will pop through my head of a failure, and then I'm like, cool, that's what could happen. So if I focus on this, and this, then that will never happen. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you rationalize through your experience, and that's where I'm very fortunate as well, is because I have many near miss, saves, fails in the bank where I'm like, my body's just going to save itself. Yeah. Like, it just does that most of the time.
Actually, that's a really interesting point, because I feel like you often get athletes very, very confident who've never had any serious injuries or fails. And then on the one hand, having fails that you don't get hurt from, or that you recover quickly from, like you did a long time, could boost your confidence. I remember Phil talked about this recently on the Star podcast. But on the other hand, then when you do get a couple of serious fails, injuries, obviously, you had the most viral reel ever on Instagram in Frankfurt. You had a concussion on one occasion. Does that knock your confidence, or how do you deal with that? Because for me personally, I broke my ankle on a front flip from a highway, and I thought the front flip was going well. I rolled. I thought it was all fine. The ground was a bit uneven. My ankle was snapped. Yeah. Right. That has since really affected my confidence with drops, and I have to force it a lot more. And back before, drops were the one area I was supremely confident in, and I was scared of everything else. Now I've improved at everything else, but you know, so I wanted to get your take on that. Having had a couple of serious fails now, do they not set you back at all, or?
Nah,
No.
not really. I
So
mean,
you brush it off.
the way I see it
Yeah.
is I have too much in the green for like one little red notch to like be the reason that I stop doing
The
like,
ratio is still great.
yeah, the ratio is still huge. And then like they're all learning curves, you know. Each time I've been doing like those 3 catastrophic fails, I was somewhat reaching for the sun. I was trying to do a 360 front pre to a lip across a driveway.
Yeah.
Like I was trying to take the highest level I've ever done, which was like Capstone 2021, that side pre to that lip. That was like the start of this next level for me.
Yeah.
And the way I saw it was like that. I was trying to do that again. And I was trying to put a hat on a hat and go next level dom. And then if I do that, you would have seen me doing like 360 front pre's, Rudy pre's and stuff all year, probably being very irresponsible with my body.
It was never going to stop. You were always going to push to see what you could do.
Yeah, I was going to go. And then like I flirted with that line. I'm like, cool. Now I know if I do ever want to like step things up class wise like that, where I'm doing like moves that you shouldn't do to ledges you shouldn't do, or like, you know, trying to push my level in that way, I need to do all of the base training, and I actually need to go and do specific training for the one move that I want to do. That's what a lot of you know, Kalen Chan, his Congainer Prees, he took like 17 mattresses to the place and like wrapped it up and then did it till he did it perfect, and then he stuck it.
Max Webb, cork to the ledge, years of training that in gym.
Yeah. Setting the exact dimensions, the exact ledges up to do it in a safe environment where you know you have it dialed. I was just trying to just shoot it from like, I'd done a couple of preps on grass and I was like, it should work.
So it's a higher ratio of risk. I mean,
yeah, so it's just like, I don't know. I don't think like, and there was like 1 year out of 17 or 18 years of parkour at that point, I think it was 17 at that point, that I'd had like 3 big hits after having many, many years of like maximum 1 big hit that hadn't taken me away from the sport that long. So I was like, I don't know. There's like, I'm not going to stop doing what I do because it's so ingrained as to who I am as a person to just like want to try the harder thing or push myself.
Of course you wouldn't stop, but I was curious on one thing is the desire and the other thing is like, does it make you like just genuinely more scared? But I guess not, right?
No, I think it does, because what it is like even the other day I did the pole slide for the first time in about a year.
Yeah, that was gnarly. Yeah.
But everyone's going, oh, it's big, it's big. I didn't think it was that big. I thought it was a pole slide, and I thought I was being a for not doing it faster. Do you know what I mean? Like I think my perception of what is great or what is like, I just look at the biggest of each facet, and I'm like, well, you know, if I'm not doing that, I'm obviously, because that's how I've always kind of graded myself. But at the same time, then now, like, but if I see, like, I'll see someone do a huge running pre, and I'll be like, wait, is that? Oh, it is massive. Like, it takes me like a second more to register that, because I'm just so saturated in parkour and seeing every crazy feat under the sun for the last 15 years.
Desensitized almost to how good the level is.
Yeah. Where my perception, and I guess this is even when I was coming up, I never had a really good bar of what like other people think is cool or like good or huge. Yeah. So I do something that was like personally like crazy for me. No one gave a shit. And then I do like a front flip that I was like a throwaway for me, and people were like, oh my God. Yeah. So I've never used the judgment of others to curate how I go about parkour. My parkour is very like, I just want to do this. This excites me. I'm going to do that. And there's not a lot of, especially over the years, there's now like not a lot of external noise as to what that looks like.
And the level of what you think you can do is not dictated by others.
No, because it doesn't make sense. I can do a 10-meter front flip, but I can't do a double full. Where's the math? Exactly. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense.
It's the same for me as well in the niches that I do, for sure.
Yeah, so just do what you do in parkour, and then, you know, when other people do stuff that's sick, if you want to learn it, learn it. If you can't do it, then that's probably super, super cool, because you'll never be able to do it. Like for me, that becomes like another modicum of respect when you see all the guys doing like dub 10s and stuff like over stair gaps and off. I'm like, you have my bowing down respect, because for everything that I've learned in my life, for everything that I've achieved, for all the skills that I've curated, I will never be able to do that. I know for a fact it's just not on the way you did that there right then. It's never on the cards for me. And as someone who has attained quite a high level of movement for my personal satisfaction, that's incredible. You're incredible.
Yeah, I think
Sorry.
I think that's one of the best, one of the most rewarding things almost that I've found, most validating things in parkour, was I look at, because you have your niches that you're very good in, right? And I remember specifically one scenario, meeting Bailey Payne, hanging out with him, training with him a lot. Oh, that's crazy. Hey,
Mid-podcast reveal.
wow, blonde tomato.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Sylvie did it last night.
That's so crazy.
22 again.
Mate, I'm loving that. That's funny. You and my favorite fighters do that. That's really cool. Right, we'll get onto that later.
Sorry, I knew that would totally throw you
It
off
did,
your
but
rhythm there.
I'm back. So, which was Bailey. So, like, he's an incredible tricking athlete. Now, free runner. He's won like many Red Bull competitions and stuff like that. He used to have the world record for the most swing throughs, and I just thought this guy's an exceptional athlete.
Mm-hmm.
He's so cool, and I trained with him and hung out with him. And the most amazing thing is he thought the same thing about me because I could do a big running jump. And I was like, no, like, dude, I'm not on your level, whatever. But it was genuinely like we had the same mindset towards each other. And I was like, dude, like, come on now. But because we're both so strong in a niche that the other is just so weak in, and that was so validating to me. It's like, wow, he respects what I do,
It's like humanizing your heroes in that way. And I think a lot of parkour people and people I've met through movement culture and even sports culture have this similar thing where, you'll come up and you'll be like, oh man, I've been watching you online for 8 years, you're incredible. And they're like, I've been watching you online forever, you're incredible. Like there's this
so genuine.
Yeah, and even if not, like they'll put themselves on your level very quickly and not hold themselves to any higher standard. And that was like when I first came to my first overseas event for the Love and Movement in 2014. The very first day, I met Foskey, Jesse Peveril, and Lewis Alkmaar, who were like at the time 3 very big names in the sport.
Yeah.
And they were just like the most normal people in the world. They just like very, very like, oh, where are you guys from? Blah, blah, blah. They didn't hold themselves to any higher standard. Like, I guess they didn't know that I've been watching them on the internet for many, many years and being like, oh my God, guys, I'm in the same room as Foskey right now. But like, we just went out to the bar and watched a football game and we all had drinks, became really friends. Like, not like you just built friendships very normally, very quickly from these guys that were like incredible icons in my teenage years. And that for me was a very quick like learning experience of like, oh, okay, well, if I meet anybody in parkour who's like fandom or like looking up to me in some way, that doesn't make me pedestaled.
Yeah, exactly.
It shouldn't make me pedestaled in any single way.
The
like,
sport is not big enough to do that. And
it's also like
it's
it's not even just the size. Like hopefully it will be big enough.
It's a culture, right?
It's a cultural difference that we have from traditional sports and even other extreme sports. Is that I personally don't think we're hierarchical or whatever you want. Like, and I don't think we need to be.
Yeah.
I don't think the beautiful thing about us is that the Ronaldinhos and the Messis of the sport, like the story guys, they will be out on the street training with guys who it's their like first day of parkour.
Yep.
There's no like
Elitism.
ecosystem for elitism that is shown with deemed with respect in parkour. Like nobody's into that.
Yeah, so like if you're shooting for like a big project, maybe you only want a few of your people.
Yeah, you can have your time.
You can have your time, right? But there's absolutely an inclusivity to it, and we still have that, and we got to not move away from that. And respect for absolutely everyone in the session. Like no one's sort of too arrogant or puts himself on a pedestal. Yeah, for sure, man. I wanted to ask. Let's get a couple of like the bigger sends. Let's a couple of stories in there. I remember one of the first podcasts I actually did was with Jay Clark, and he harked back to some of the times you guys had together and some of the big sends. What are the 2 or 3 of the biggest processes that you went through, massive sends, and tell us a bit about them, like real high points.
The first one that stands out to me, and I think this was like the catalyst for my online career.
Yeah.
Was I did a Webster precision at an iconic Sydney spot, but to a pillar that's like to a post or a pylon that's
in the water.
Yeah, over the water. It's in Star Sydney Harbour. Yeah, it's a flip pre up.
Yeah.
And it's completely blind when you do it as a front pre. I just had them I had the intuitive distancing dialed.
Yeah.
And that what it was is that it was kind of an off the cuff at the end of the day send where the guys were like, "Oh, do you reckon you could do it?" And I was like, "I actually think I could." And so I sent one and I got my feet on it and then just jumped off to the side and I was like, "Holy, this is huge!" But I also then was blindly confident that I could just do it again. I was like, "Oh, you know what? Like, I'll just go there tomorrow, take like 2 pairs of shoes, 3 pairs of shoes, get it done in like an hour. And I went there, I had a meeting at 3 p.m. and I went there at 10:30 I arrived, and it took me the entire time till 2:30 where I had to leave for the meeting to nail. Like it took 11 attempts or 10 attempts on the one day.
So were you just like going at it again with wet shoes?
Yeah, I just let them dry for like 15, 20 minutes and then so I could go to the next pair.
Good old Australian sun.
Yeah, it was a hot day. But that was the process behind that. I remember just being super grueling because every attempt is super, super mental. So by the time you get yourself hyped up to do it, attempt it, fall in the water, get wet, dry off, you warm down mentally, and then you've got to build yourself back up by doing some more preps on the spot next to it. So physically getting more burnt out, going back, lining it up, and then just falling in again. And for like 9 times of that process, it was just super brutal. And there was almost a point where like at attempt 6 or 7, I just flipped out of it and I was like, look, I'm just going to cut it. Like I flipped onto the pole. I'm good. You know, like that defeated. And this happens to me quite a lot. I go through this wave, especially when I'm doing a lot of attempts of like, almost like look, I already did the job. Like I'm not a perfectionist. So a lot of parkour is for me, I just do it like 1 or 2 times. I'm like, cool, that was fun. Yeah. Like I'm doing it for the experience. And so when I was like going for this challenge and trying to nail this, at a certain point, I was like, I already flipped onto the pillar. I don't care anymore. But I knew, like most things, that after working so hard, the sweetest reward would be to just have that final nailing of it. And that, like, that clip went super big. I already had like a pretty decent following, but that clip like catapult a lot of audience investment because a lot of people in Sydney, Australia know the spot. People in the sport were like, hadn't seen a flip precision up to a pylon, 4 meters above the water or whatever. There's high consequence.
It's so nice that the effort and the satisfaction you felt was actually reflected in the virality because it's often not the case.
Yes, exactly right. Where like something like Leon 25, I kind of like, I don't want to say I like just pissed it out, but like it's not, I was doing crazier front flips in my opinion throughout that year leading up to it. And then Leon was just like, it was big and it was concrete, but it wasn't complicated. It was one of the easier technically front flips to do. So that's why when I got there, I had like this laissez-faire attitude about it. Even when I did it, I was like, oh, I hurt my foot. It's not even like my internal thought was like, oh, it's not a hard front flip. And then it went huge. It went so big. It was like another level. Like it totally.
Because it's Leon. Right?
Yeah, because it's the big, like...
But it didn't take the work that the other one took.
No.
It wasn't, it was like big and scary and hard, but like you pulled up, you did it. You didn't have to work for it the same way.
No, I'd done all the work prior over the years. But that's the thing with, where, see, people like Jason, and even, other athletes, but Jason's my prime example is they know more about what the media landscape and what the sport like looks like from an outside perspective than I ever will. I'm so entrenched in parkour that I don't really have a perspective of like, I didn't realize that Leon 25 was going to be like my, like a legacy jump. I had no idea, but Jason knew. That's why he said we should go do it. He was like, this is the biggest jump that's ever been done on a skateboard. Do you think you could front flip it? I said, yes. He's like, cool, I'm going to set up the whole thing. Like Farang invested money for us to travel there, did the whole, like it was fully, he knows and understands the street culture world outside of parkour far better than I ever will.
Yeah. And you need people that are going to help you that and tell you that. Even when I'm making YouTube videos and stuff, like I always ask the opinion of like my girlfriend who has no interest in the space because I need a completely level-headed view because it's just so, when you're so involved in it, it's so hard, right?
Yeah. And like what I think is interesting and entertaining is not what everyone thinks is interesting and entertaining. I've got neurodivergent brain going on, so.
Yeah. I was wondering if there, we touched on it before with sort of the injuries. Are there any examples of challenges you feel like you went for that you maybe shouldn't have, or that you weren't ready for, or the way I tend to describe you, your fails, your injuries, because some people will be like, oh, Dom's sketchy, this and that. I actually don't think you've ever gone for anything you couldn't do. I think sometimes you haven't done the necessary preparations for it in terms of like you should have done this and then gone for it. Well, what's your thought on that?
I agree with the premise of that. I don't think I've ever gone for something that I shouldn't or couldn't do, and I definitely don't look back at anything like, oh, you know what, that was too much or I shouldn't have done. I was having a good go. Leave me alone. Let me try you know, like
Giving it a red hot go.
yeah, giving it a bash, you know, and it's
Yeah.
like whether it works out or not, I'm not attached. Like I think a lot of people in society are attached to like failure or success being the be all and end all, whether it makes you great or not. I don't really care. I just want to try. And like if it works out, great. And funnily enough, in my experience, if it also doesn't work out, also great. Weirdly enough, built a lot of my brand on just showing my work at like all my math. You know, whether that be me making it or me failing. Here's what I tried. Here's the result, and
the biggest clip ever was actually a fail.
Yeah, and it's like I think early on in parkour social media landscape, I definitely remember feeling very. Not like a pioneer, but like they're one of the first people to just show their bails and be cool with that and be like, you know what, I'm not ashamed.
Yes.
Like where I'm trying to show parkour for what it is, and the way I practice it arguably may not be the safest, but I also am just going to show you how I'm doing parkour. Whether you choose to do it the same way as me is totally up to you, because it's a celebration of self-expression, not Dom's expression.
Some people will vilify that, but would you say that you're more proud having done it, given it a go, than having like not?
Yeah,
100%. That's how I feel as well. Yeah.
Roll the dice every single time, whether I get snake eyes or I get a 4 and a 6.
Yeah, and usually and that's, saying that sounds like a bit hardcore, but usually it does work out, and all like that's what that's what things show. And you've had a couple of really bad luck, right? A couple of times.
Yeah, not even that bad. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's again, it's like the framing of it post whatever the situation is. Like I hit my head and had a 3-minute seizure, but I didn't receive any like extra length, like brain damage, brain bleeding, blah, blah, blah. Like there's all these things that could have gone wrong.
Yeah. And
they didn't. So I'm just happy about that, as opposed to worrying about like, oh, but what if you did this next time? And what, like that didn't happen. What happened happened. And so then I look and observe that, and I don't remember it, so it's not that scary. But like I don't, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't cling on to like the what ifs or the hypotheticals of what has been or could have been. I just kind of play off what's happened right in front of me.
No, as you should. And actually, that's funny. It's one sort of skill or ability you have that we don't put too much emphasis on in parkour, which has actually helped you a lot generally, is your durability. Mentally and physically.
I'm a strong condom. Every good condom should be durable.
Yeah, absolutely. The Rebel thing looks a bit like a condom. But you can bounce back really well, both physically and mentally. And I think that's been one of the big keys to your success. But no, I fully agree with you on that sentiment. Like with the example of myself, like I had built myself up. I really wanted to do this big jump in Sheffield, like one of the bigger jumps in the sport.
Another one.
A couple of people had done it, and I had a date set on Schlappen 2. I went and did it, very scared. And physically, I made it, but I slid out bad, and it was so sketchy. Did it one more time, not too much better. Kind of
full butt slide, right? Like full.
The first one was a long jump, full butt slide. Second one, I did it one more time because I bruised my feet a bit, so I knew I only had one more in me. Did it one more time, kind of like stumbled on the landing. Wasn't too happy with it. But am I happier? And I bruised heels for like 2 months. Am I happier than if I had walked away? Like 1,000,000%, because I won the mental battle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm disappointed. I was very disappointed on the day. But looking back at it now, I'm still like super proud that I.
No, exactly. I think like, and that just speaks to your positivity about your position in things, instead of getting hunkered down and like, oh, I didn't do as good as I wanted to do. You see,
or as good as this person, right?
Good, yeah. Oh, yeah. The comparison.
Comparison. Yeah.
It's horrible. Like you jump how you jump and how someone else jumps is like, it's cool that they unlocked it for you and you guys get to share the journey of doing that both, not at the same time, but together.
Yeah.
But there's like a camaraderie that forms. But at the same time, holding yourself to the standard. Like I always say with jumps out when we're training, I'll break it, you do it good.
Yeah. When you're training with people.
Yeah. Like absolutely. Hell yeah, I'll do it so it's super plausible.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do it good because that's just how I am.
Yeah.
Like I also think it's like a concentration thing. It's like if I don't consider the challenge to be worth my concentration, I'm probably going to do it pretty sloppy because I'm just like, you just do this. Yeah. Whereas like if I'm really focused on a challenge, my tech just goes.
Yeah, and so I mean that's another example of what I was saying. That's why famously your 360 dive rolls precisions are better than your dive rolls because you're more locked in.
Yeah.
You know?
Less time to think about it, less time to fuck up. You're just like, hey, I've got to dive my shoulder at that ledge and I need to rip into it.
And you're more focused, I think, than your dive rolls.
Yes.
You really lock in, right?
Yeah. Because there's an element then suddenly of somewhat mortality being added where I don't consider that with a dive roll. The dive roll is so easy.
So much more safe.
Yeah. They're like one of my favorite things. Just, if your ankle's hurt, use your back.
When do you walk away from a challenge? And do you have any like examples?
Never. I've never said no, all the time.
Yeah.
I think I'm constantly looking at things that are almost implausible. So I'm always stepping down from a challenge, but it's before I step up to it.
Yes.
I'll look and I'll be like, oh, imagine that. But I just imagine it. And I'm like, okay, I'm way too scared to ever do that.
I do that a lot as well. And there's a big difference between imagine that, like, physically but mentally not, and then actually starting the process, getting 20 minutes into it, and then walking away.
Oh, mate, you give me there is like my KDR on challenge walkaways is huge. I've got like a 99% KDR. I'm never walking. I barely ever step down.
When you're like, okay, I'm doing this.
Again, it's another thing where I have a lot of respect for athletes who decide to.
Yeah.
Because it's a strength of character that I struggle with. You know what I mean? If I've asserted myself to the challenge and I've set this thing for me as like, this is what we're doing, then, if I back down from it, it affects me internally where I'm like, I'm not as good as I thought I was. Or like,
And that's a skill in itself, is learning to mentally come back from that as well.
Yeah. But then also if you send it a lot of the time and just deal with the consequences, you don't have to worry about not having sent it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's where we talk about me bouncing back from injury and failure and whatever it is all those times again and again and again. So I'm like, yeah, at least I went for it. Like I'm not having to fight, am I confident enough? Confidence in spades. Am I good enough? I'll battle that the rest of my life.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting because I think that's the main battle people deal with is that commitment, right? And that confidence. But then you can go the other end where it's like, am I good enough? And it's funny, that example of like that Sheffield jump, that was the one trip in my parkour career where I had an 100% hit rate. Every challenge I put myself up to that Schlappen tour, I got them all. One of them took me 40 minutes, and I was having a mad one.
Mate,
but
any
I got
challenge
them all.
that takes more than 10 minutes in parkour nowadays is like I've lost the patience for.
Yeah.
I can't imagine like 40 minutes. And was it 40? Okay, this is a good split actually. Was it 40 minutes of you on the oki and not going, or was it 40 minutes of you trying it and just not quite hitting it?
Good distinction. No, it was 40 minutes of maybe less than 40 minutes, but around that time of preps and almost going. It was a very large.
Yeah, so you're doing something on the floor, coming back up to it.
Run up, stride, don't commit. And then it was also, it was funny because it was kind of warranted because I was like, look, boys, I'm gonna land on this ledge. My feet are gonna slip and my toes are gonna smash into this wall and it's gonna hurt my toes. And they're like, nah, you'll be fine. I did commit. That happened. It was okay, but I knew that was gonna happen. You know what I mean?
But it's interesting because that again speaks to this how do you overcome things? You know the results. You've done 10,000 hours of parkour. You know
deep down what's going to happen.
You know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so the reason that you're not sending this thing is probably because you're fully aware of the ramifications of what it is you're about to do.
Yeah.
And then that 5%, 10% leap of faith that you need to take to overcome it.
Yeah. To just almost not.
It almost always plays out how you think. So if you think, I'm probably going to smash my toes, there's a very high likelihood you will. You'll still be successful, but you're going to do the thing you think you're going to do because you are also manifesting and visualizing that.
Yeah,
that's why a lot of the
time, the most
time,
likely outcome. Yeah, even when we're training, with a lot of people at Super XXL and stuff like that, a lot of them are constantly having mental battles, and it's almost like do or die. And sometimes I try and reframe it when I'm trying to help them for it. I'm like, well, let's look at this. If you're trying to do this arm jump or trying to do this running pre, what's the worst that can happen? Right, the worst that can happen, you bounce or you slip out and you land on your ass and you get a nice big bruise on your ass. Are you okay with a nice big bruise on your ass? And oh yeah, whatever. It's almost like if you kind of haven't accepted it, there are scenarios where it's, there is real danger.
Yeah.
But sometimes you do almost need to just let in okay, I could deal with the bad outcome.
Yeah, how much?
And you're very good at
how much HP are you willing to lose on this? Yeah.
And it's different each time, but for sure.
When I do a pole slide, I definitely my knee bangs past it a tiny bit, and sometimes I get a little like friction in like between.
It hurts a bit, right? Yeah.
But it's not that deep. Grow up, like
Yeah.
It hurts. It hurts less than when I like hit my shin on a table walking through the kitchen.
Yeah.
Like or stub my toe. It's expected, warranted. Like I'm flying at a metal object and we're gonna like slide down it. Yeah, it's not gonna be just a walk in the park.
Yeah.
Same with the chimney slide. You're probably gonna like have a little scrape somewhere, but you're doing a sick chimney slide. Like, the sensation of doing it far outweighs the little like, oh, I cut my back, I got a little graze.
And learning to accept that, I think, is a very difficult skill, but it's an important skill. If you want to do like big, sometimes dangerous parkour, accepting not like major injuries, but accepting bumps and scrapes and like, or a big dive or like, okay, I might come out of this.
One of the ones that's the craziest thing I've heard is some athletes are like, oh, I want to do it, but I don't want to get my shirt dirty. Like, what sport are you doing, bro? You are not on a stage right now. You are going to roll on the floor. Guaranteed. 150%. If you do parkour, you will rub your chest, back, arms, head against walls, floor, dirt, flour, like everything. It's just like, it's an insane premise to it. Don't wear that shirt.
Yeah, you need to accept like a degree of like bumps, bruises, scrapes, getting a bit dirty, bit of blood, sweat, and tears if you want to do like really high level, large athletic parkour, and like that's okay.
Yeah.
You obviously, we're not trying to get like anything major injuries. We don't want anything to go wrong. But
not trying to roll in poop. I'm just saying if I do, it's fine.
I mean, some big jumps as well that people do, absolute groundbreaking, massive success. But you come away with some bruised heels and you can't train for a few days, and that sucks. But like that doesn't mean it's not a success. That just means it was a real push, right?
Actually, that's an interesting question. Where do you draw the line on success or failure? Because like for me, and like I don't think a lot of people realize this, but I don't consider Leon 25 to be a success. I fractured my foot. That's not a successful landing. Yes, I did it before other people, but Jan was the first person to do it successfully.
I agree with that. And so if you bruise your heel and you couldn't train for a few days, success, right? But for sure.
You fracture your cuboid and you have 8 weeks where you can't really like move on it. Yeah, you probably didn't make that.
Well, let's reframe it. I think it comes down to what we were just saying. What would you accept before the jump? Bit of bumps, a bit of bruises, a bit of scrapes. Would you accept like fracturing your foot? No.
No.
So maybe that is did you achieve what you set out to achieve?
No. I mean...
No, in terms of like, not in this case, I mean in terms of...
is that the grading system? Yeah.
For success.
Yeah, I think 100%. Like...
And some people wouldn't be happy with a bruise, right?
Here's another example on the other flip side of that, where I did the Kong front splat in the Capstone Oath video across the alleyway.
That was awesome.
But people are like, oh, yeah, he failed that. He meant to catch on. I'm like, no, exactly 170%. The reason I'm so happy is because I pictured that in my head, and then that went 100% of exactly how I planned it, with like down to the softness and me turning to the right a little bit. Everything went exactly to plan, but it looks like chaotic and crazy and like I fell over because that's the nature of what I was going for. But that's where that contradiction of people...
Did you achieve what you set out to achieve?
Yeah, and I think because parkour is so personal in that way, I think that's a great metric or barometer. It's like in pool, right? If I go, oh yeah, I'm going to sink the purple in that corner there, and I hit it and the corner comes back in that purple there, it might not be what I called, but my intention was to sink the ball. So it's like, well, I still did.
But a better player might be unhappy with that because they're like, I missed my shot, right?
Yeah, well, Ellis would be unhappy with
Ellis.
that.
No, 100%.
Phil would also be unhappy with that on the pool premise, not the parkour premise.
No, it's super personal, and then certain people are unhappy with certain jumps that someone else would be super happy with. It's entirely self-driven, as is the sport. Let's talk then briefly about injuries. So what's your situation now, and what have you been dealing with recently, and like kind of how has that affected your training? And also, I guess I want to get into how you've matured in your recovery, in your conditioning, all that kind of stuff, where you're at now.
I mean, I've just been like forced in a chokehold to be more responsible, really.
Yeah. Well, I that happened to me when I was 18. That's why I started working out, because of knee problems. So this just happened to you now, kind of thing.
Yeah, I managed to get all the way to 32 years old, 33 years old, without having to really slow down or take accountability for the physical detriment that I was doing all of the years I was doing it. But at the same time, like...
You were getting away with just regular training.
The regular training doesn't even really cover it.
Nah,
Like
it's
when
not
I
even-
look
0
back,
to 100 training.
people are like, how often are you training now? I'm training between 3 to 4 times a week of parkour specifically. That's what most people were doing their entire career. Like that, I was my peers. Like even Ed was like, no, I train 3-4 days a week, and then I do 3-4 days deload in the gym and running and stuff like that. Like he rationalizes his output, which is why he's so consistent because it is methodical. Same with Tim. Same with like a lot of the guys. There wasn't this saturation due to lack of discipline, which was my issue. Is that everyone's like, oh, he's so disciplined because he trains all the time. No, I was obsessed with it. And so I would go
Passionate.
out for, passionate. I loved doing it. So you couldn't stop me from doing it 7 days a week for many, 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 many years. And then because the style of movement that I do is so physically demanding, that just became like more and more difficult to maintain that speed in my 30s. But it doesn't mean like right now, I actually feel like I'm at like 80-90%, which my 80-90%, like I don't know if I'll ever, because I definitely feel like I passed my peak. So I don't know if I'll ever be at 100% ever again. But I also don't think during my peak I was at 100%. It's like 98, 99.
There's always something. There's always niggling injuries and little things. It's about being 100% dialed in mentally and technically.
Yeah, I was at the best spot that I would ever be in physically and mentally.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I still can't go and do a 10-meter front flip to sand tomorrow. Like I still got the chops, you know what I mean? It's like it's not, I actually have secret project coming out soon, but I've done a bigger front flip to a sand pile now than 10 meters.
Ooh.
I've already
That's exciting.
yeah, like things are going up. So I'm not worried about having to do crazy stuff all the time or be some like what people expect of me.
You don't put
level
pressure on yourself.
No, go away. Parkour's my thing, and I can
big.
ride it as much as I want. And so, yes, it's taken me longer to recover from the ankle surgery that I had last year. I had bone spurs removed from the front of my ankle to increase the mobility because it was giving me daily pain, both ankles. It was giving me daily pain and restricting my mobility so that simple tasks like running and jumping weren't achievable without some sort of physical compensation. So I was like compensating with my hips, my back, my all sorts of things. So it was like at the stage, I was like, cool, this is interfering with what I want to do.
If it's giving you Bailey pain, then you've got to really do something.
Yeah. We don't want any bagels pain going on my ankles. We prefer him off my ankles.
Yeah, very much.
But yeah, so then now I've recovered fully. I feel like other than overdoing it, and again, just being in your 30s and trying to go like as hard as you did in your 20s makes you more sore, and the recovery, it just takes an extra day to feel like woohoo than it did before. But it's not that deep, and I don't feel like I'm like, obviously I'm slowing down in intensity, but I do not feel like I'm slowing down as far as output or capacity or what I have in the tank.
You can still hit the same peaks, but maybe you have to take 2 days off afterwards or something.
Yeah, just a little bit, like a little bit longer reload time.
Yes.
That's really that's really it. And I definitely feel like there's some at least in jest thoughts from like the peers in the community that like I'm on the other side of things and that I won't be doing stuff. But then come train with me, I'll still do the pole slide you don't want to do.
Drop that video,
so fun.
and you'll let them know.
Yeah, but it's fine. It's like whatever your perspective of what my training is doesn't really matter again because
That's for you.
yeah, I'm just doing it because
I resonate with that so much because obviously you've got a few years on me. I'm 28, but I'm also noticing that now. Like the other day, so now I feel like after lifting, I need 2 days before parkour. So I lifted Thursday a couple of weeks ago. I went out to train Saturday. I couldn't get my body moving. Sunday, I was on fire. I did one of the biggest jumps. I was killing it. Got a great
just switch up. Like you're like, wait, am I the same? Like, am I even the same person I was yesterday? Like it was totally two different contrasting shells.
Exactly. So it's two things. One is obviously getting older, recovery time slowing down. The other thing is being in a physical peak. It's like I didn't just lift Thursday, I lifted PBs, and I'm stronger than I've ever been.
Yeah.
And then on Sunday I did a jump that I couldn't have done a few months ago. So also, this my athletics coach used to always say this, like when you're at your peak is when you're most likely to get injured. It's like you're like a Formula One car. They're always braking and whatnot, but they go bloody fast.
Yes, yeah.
So that's another thing as well. Like one is aging, the other thing is performing at your physical like maximum.
Everyone's aging is at different speeds. This is again the comparison thing. You can't look at someone who is your age and be like, well, I should be exactly where they're at with my aging, because that's not true. Like people go gray hair way sooner. People like lose hair faster. People get knee in things at 18 versus still like I'll probably have my knee stuff at like 45 by the time it all catches up. You know what I mean? Like everyone's going through that journey physically at different speeds. And so trying to self-assess and observe where you're at. And like, as you say, you're like, okay, cool. I've noticed this over the past however many months, year, I've had to change my rhythm. That self-assessment is the most important thing, as opposed to trying to play by some arbitrary rule book of like, when I get to 30, I need to do this. When I get to 31, I need to do this. And like, there's no perfect formula. Yeah. There's no right answer. But if you can at least recognize, and like, as I said straight away on this subject of being like forced down into it, it's like, yeah, I suddenly couldn't go out and do jumps and just even work around my injuries like I did for many, many years. Like I had to make a change. Yeah. And like a big part of that now is like going to the gym. I didn't go to the gym before. Like from age 15 or 17 till 29, I think I stepped foot in a gym twice. Yeah. Like I'd never.
Now you love it.
Yeah. Well, because it's another outlet that I can continue to improve myself on. Yeah. I think that journey of self-progression. So maybe I'm not the like as malnourished, lean upper body, big leg frame that I was before. I'm definitely like moving my strength around in different ways, but it's definitely making me feel more solid for going out and doing parkour. I feel more safe in my body, knowing its like limitations, safe knowing its strength. And I feel like a big part of why I've been able to kind of suddenly kick back into doing really big stuff since the start of the year has been because I spent all of that period where I was unable to do it, working on my body still trying to do something that would keep me in the professional athlete ballpark.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's the main thing that I always tell people with lifting. Like, yeah, it will give you a bigger jump and whatnot, but the biggest benefit is like injury prevention and being more solid, being more stable in your body. And like when I'm injured, like I just do strength work until I'm back to like where I feel like I can be at 100%. No, I really enjoyed you getting on that journey. I think it's been super cool. And it's been very validating for me to see you go through this and like understand what I went through when we were training together in Sydney like 10 years ago and stuff. Like
fully.
That was super cool. I wanted to ask a question that I asked you when I made a documentary about you, I don't know, 5 years ago or something like that, because I found it was a very interesting answer. And just because you're absolutely an athlete and take yourself very seriously as an athlete, but I asked you the question of, do you feel like you're more of an athlete or more of a performer? And you said performer. Is that still how you feel, or where does that kind of lie in your eyes?
I'm 100% still a performer. Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like I am a performer who is desperately playing the part of athlete every single way I can. And I come from a very, very athletic family. So my perspective is somewhat warped because my dad was a marathon runner and a golf pro. My mum was a world level outrigger and a national level triathlete. My sister
world level what?
Outrigger, which is where you do open water canoeing as a team of 8. So you're in the ocean.
In the ocean.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, like and then my sister was an international level figure skater. So I'm the artistic one. I did dance and parkour, 2 non-professional sports. Like they're both versions of self-expression. Like, you know, I'm the artistic one. So even though I am super athletic and that's my whole world that I come from, I know that I'm not 100% in that vein. And I always have just been a show off in life. And instead of trying to learn not to be a show off, I just lent into the performer side of who I was as
and
a
the
person.
Spectacle of what you do.
Yeah.
Right?
Like I like coaxing a reaction out of other people, be that my peers, be that a crowd, be that like that extroversion that I have in social environments actually carries through to that extroversion I have in live setting or in like media where I'm engaged by the back and forth and the response
you
and
love
that
the audience.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. Like that dynamic that you build with people and like admittedly, and I'm not shy about saying this, I do like being the center of attention. That's so fine. People like villainize that, but it's like,
mate, I'm the same. When I go for a big send, I love everyone to watch. It's great. Like,
and like, not everyone needs to be that way. And I'm not saying everyone should want to be that way, but I'm saying we also like, and it's knowing when it's appropriate. That's a very, very big
important.
social value of it is like, you can be very, look at me, I want the attention. But when other people deserve the attention, you need to shut the stuff up. Sorry. You need to and just respect that it's the other people's time.
Yep.
And like, that's where I guess that really brings back to like what we were saying at the start, where like, why are you behind everyone so much? Because treat others how you wish to be treated. When it's your moment, I want to give you all of that praise and moment. Like,
and the support and the energy and
yes.
like really like we're here for you, we're watching you do your thing because I want that for me, right?
But you're here for them without it being about you. That's just a really big thing.
That's important, yeah.
When I was cheering on the South African team in the High Rocks race, I was right in their ear cheering them on, and as soon as it came for them to run up to the finish line, we ran up to an appropriate distance and we stopped.
And let them have their moment.
Go and finish the race.
Yeah.
Go and do your interviews. Go and be the center of the spotlight that you deserve right now. It's not about me. So me and Alani we just peel back and just meld it into the crowd.
Yeah, that's
happy to be like on your side. And when it's like personal, I'm cheering you on to encourage you to do the thing. But I'm not then going to like, you know, when I think it's Hardest Geezer and someone like ran in front of him it's like that was unbelievable. But that's where the distortion of like helping someone and making it about yourself becomes really apparent. And like sometimes I need to remember, and even younger athletes too, when someone else is doing a jump, maybe shut up.
It's not for everyone. the loud support, and you got to know your people.
You can give them a few cues here and there, or if you know them really well and you know that they appreciate it, sure.
Then you do it, yeah.
But if you're just doing it to every athlete at the session, like go, yep, no, smash it, like they don't need it. And I've been talked to by Pasha and Phil, actually, particularly two people I always remember that are like, hey, and they both said it respectfully, but they're like, please don't shout for me. Please don't yell to me saying I can do it, because they don't want to be doing it for external validation.
And also that doesn't
very
help
personal.
them.
No.
It helps some people. It helps me. I will tell my friends, as I'm running up for this jump, yell at me to commit.
Yeah.
And it will give me that. It will help, right?
For sure.
But it's just, you got to know your people. And if you don't know them, you give a bit of support, but obviously don't overdo it.
Yeah.
And I know some people, especially Super XXL sessions, like this one guy, Sonny, he responds well to it. So I support him, I yell at him, I push him. And there was footage of it, and once like they had this award that they gave me for supporting, you know, and it's that kind of thing, you know, and you're exactly like that as well. But you got to know your people. Like you said, don't make it about yourself. With the example of the High Rocks, like, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, Dom is here for a week to do this Influencer High Rocks on Monday, which is very cool. But yeah, like you were super supportive of the last group to finish. The South
because they're my boys. Like we met the day before, we got along really well, and like after doing it myself and understanding how hard this was for someone who thinks they are like top athlete level, watching other people who don't refer to themselves as athletes finish this beast, this behemoth, I was just so enthralled. Like, yeah, it's just such a demanding experience.
You can tell it's genuine as well, your reaction. And so because you were so supportive and so keeping with it, they had this live stream, they had like reporters there. The reporters would come over to you for a quip and you'd give them one or two words, but you'd kind of almost be like, yeah, I just want them to do it. Like you'd almost push it away to the point like it's not about me. You know what I mean?
No, it's not. And I don't ever want my support to feel like for someone that I'm giving it to that I'm holding any sort of weight or like...
You're doing it for your profile. Because it is good for your profile.
I hate profile.
But it's not, like, in terms of elevating your profile in you know, like with Physical Asia, which we'll talk about and stuff like that. It is good for that, but it's very clear that that's not why you do it.
Well, because I just don't see the world through this idea of elevating your brand or profile or something. That's icky to me. That's so gross.
And people would smell that a mile away. I feel like the one thing that, you know, despite how sort of like unintelligent or whatever, and some person might be, the one thing I think almost all people are really intelligent about is inauthenticity and being able
staging.
People know when something is real and when it's not.
Well, not everyone, but genuine. A lot.
Not everyone, but
a good large portion of the population can really just like tell. Sense when like someone's not in it for
like the right reasons.
Yeah, or you know, like has something off about where they're coming from. It's very quick. Yeah, especially in parkour, we read that stuff so fast. That's why like. A lot of people who, what I would say, come into parkour for alternative reasons other than like their own journey just don't last in the sport because parkour's not going to give you back some crazy, I don't know, journey or like reward that you have assigned yourself that parkour should give you back. It's just not, that's not what we're here for.
Doesn't owe you anything. Like,
no, it doesn't owe you nothing.
You've got to love it. And some people come in and they have a lot of success, but then when they're motivated by external validation, one day they disappear and you wonder why. And it's because it was that more so than the passion. I think that can sometimes happen. So on that point of like getting something back from parkour, with all your passion and your drive and your years of like grinding, you have managed to build this incredible, enviable parkour career, and one of if not the most pure parkour careers, in the sense of like you do the content and stuff, but it's very much like you're being supported to be primarily an athlete, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to go through how that came about, because, you know, people might attribute it to like a few viral things here and there, but really, like, I know from knowing you for so long, it was years of grinding, particularly with the Instagram. I guess that's how it started. So do you want to talk me through how you grinded your way into the position you're in now?
Yeah, I mean, just even when you're talking about it, I just feel so lucky. Like, the thing that I am most obsessed with in life, I get to do as a full-time job, and like go out and make up a career essentially of jumping on walls with my friends and be like, woo!
Yeah.
It's pretty sick. But I mean, okay, so when I started parkour, even very early on, within the first 12 months, I saw other athletes, you know, like Danny working with brands and having small sponsorships. And I thought, look, there's a way, like, it's possible to like make a small amount of income doing this. And as a teenager, I guess we weren't in my era, we weren't in a landscape where like becoming a social media influencer was even a thing. It didn't even exist.
Yeah.
There was like sponsored athletes, there was like media personalities, there was actors in film and TV, there was musicians, but there wasn't the same stardom towards especially street sports that there was today. But there had been some standouts. There had been Tony Hawk in skateboarding. There had been, you know, greats in lots of traditional sports, huge names, household names that'll, you know, be legendary for years to come. And I just thought parkour is like a budding sport, and there's like doing something that nobody else is doing enables you to also have an advantage in the market. Yeah. So we started very early on. Within 2 years, I was doing parkour performances, often being booked through Sydney Council or, you know, local Australian brands that would reach out to the Sydney parkour community, or at that time Jump Squad HQ, and they would book us some work, and Marks and I would just...
so you had little opportunities even early on.
Yeah, some bar mitzvahs and stuff like that, doing performances there. Yeah. I did find that performances were a lot of hard work for not a huge amount of pay. Like the trade-off for getting like a couple of $100 to do like a, you know, 2 to 3 hour haul, and that's a couple of $100 between you, wasn't great. So I came from a dancing background and had worked as a professional dancer with like a breakdancing crew and stuff, and realized that they are also in an industry that I think is underpaid. Yeah. You know, these people would be doing incredible performances that no one could come up with, dedicating weeks of their time, and between like a 6-person crew breaking up $500. It's like none of them are walking away with enough to like do anything about it. You know, and they can say they're professional dancers, but they all have to work other jobs to like substantiate that. It's a very small amount of people who are doing like traveling tours and stuff. And same with parkour. We don't have a lot of people who are doing it. But that meant that even in that instance, Georgievic, the guy who was running Jump Squad, in that era, he managed to transform the parkour live performance landscape into getting real rates. And he was really starting to get people like what they deserve for doing essentially, you know, death-defying stunts. You're rotating upside down. There's always people who've died doing a backflip off height. So there is merit that this is a dangerous activity, and the skills that you've learned and developed over time deserve the financial acclaim or specialization that you have put into it.
Yeah, like a circus performer or something like that.
Yeah.
Like top level, yeah.
Absolutely. And so that's where then that was like my first taste of what it meant to be like a professional athlete. And I still do enjoy doing live performances. I think it's just ingrained in who I am. Like that. I'd love to be able to take parkour to an arena in some way, you know, if we were doing like SPL, but it was in a grandstand stadium and we got, all right, everybody, blah, 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 lights going in that. Like a bit more production.
Get you doing a big front flip on Nitro Circus, brother.
Yeah, but the thing is, right, and this is like, you know, I say that, but also parkour, even compared to something like skateboarding, and especially compared to Nitro Circus, is more intricate. It's more intimate. It's about these nuances of like really close things. And so even in an arena, you would need a live stream televisation. Like fighting is kind of like this. When I went to the UFC live, I realized the spectacle is half the battle, because even on floor seats, I can't see them grappling when I sit there because they're too far away. I can't see the nuance of like where the arms are going, it's very difficult to tell with all like the heads in front and everything like that. So they do a really, really good job at coverage. And that's why their live stream is also so successful, because it's about the coverage of the fight that they excel at. That just does
the product.
That's the product there. So they make the experience of UFC feel really grandiose, feel really epic, and like lights, music, smoke, walkouts, all these things that really add a level of bravado to the event. I think that's where, like, if we were to take parkour to an arena, that would be one of those things.
True.
Sorry, it's so off topic of me grinding.
No, yeah, the anticipation though is half the battle with that stuff.
Yes,
like,
for
I remember
sure.
for one. Well, I'm also a big like sort of MMA guy, but one fight they had like the producers actually slowed down the production quite a lot, and they allowed these two fighters to stare each other down, and neither of them blinked for like 5 minutes, and it was almost better than the fight. It was amazing, But you were right. You'd need that. You'd need like to build it up. Have have promos, have all this kind of stuff to be like, this is going to be the maddest thing before it happened. Otherwise, it would fall a bit flat.
Yeah. And also, we just don't know how, like, we see the crowd at SPL go pretty hard, but it's a very intimate room. It's a very small little, they sell out tickets every year. They've got like maybe 100 to 150 seating, maybe. It's like,
but this year, it won't be a quiet room, because Free Running Schlappen will be there.
No, it's never a quiet room. That's why I'm saying it's an intimate room.
Yeah, it goes
you're totally right. Off.
You're totally right.
It goes off. But I'm saying if that was 20,000 people, would it be the same rhythm?
Yeah.
That's what I'm more, because the crowd goes so hard at SPL. Like like I've been drunk just kicking the walls because of it. So I'm like, like
to be fair, on the live stream, like you do see you just absolutely going into it. But sort of pulling back onto the topic briefly, like
grinding away,
you were doing bits and bobs of parkour work, but that wasn't like your main income for a while until I believe Apes.
2014 was the first time I got sponsored. I got sponsored by Apes.
Yeah, and before that, so it was the garbage man work primarily, or what was it?
Yeah, so I'd done a bunch of other jobs, like laboring from 9 to 5. I'd done like retail work, reception work. I quite enjoyed reception work because, again, just being social. And it's like, very quick quips with everybody. But then, I did laboring, enjoyed the hard yakka of laboring, but the timing was terrible. It gave me no time to do parkour. Yeah. So I went on the Team Farang tour, and that was like, I guess, my first big chance to make it. It was my first overseas trip to do parkour. I went there, and I was a couple years younger than all of the other athletes like Anand, Jason, Sean, who were really making this thing into what it was. And there was some avenue of which I was doing stuff that was in the vein of Team Farang, but I was also way too young, way too immature, just a very different ambition set to them. I mean, Anand had access to, like, at that stage, what influencer nights were, but that was mostly just international models and celebrities, and we were getting invited to these parties. And so I was carried away with that lifestyle very much. And so when I came back from that trip, I guess I was a little disheartened. And that's probably like the least frequent period of training I've ever had. There's 3 months where I had a sore ankle and I hadn't made it onto Team Farang. I'd spent all my money and just had to fly home early. And the sport was kind of
reality check.
It was painful to do because of my ankle. And I also was very much into, doing figure skating growing up. I've been quite restrained from any sort of partying or any sort of going out. Like, I didn't have a fake ID. I never went out under 18. I didn't really drink until I was 18 either. Like, I didn't have those crazy teenage adventures, like going to the park and getting drunk with your friends that all these people always tell me stories about. I never had that. So when I turned 18 and I was able to do all of these things legally, I then began to explore those avenues.
And that does happen even in parkour. You kind of lose people to the joys of adult life sometimes.
Yeah,
you know,
the
for a
freedoms
bit.
of being an adult, which
Yeah.
is a crazy experience.
Yeah.
The thing was that then they had the national gathering that they have every year in Australia, and it was in Sydney. And so I rocked up there with like skinny, like essentially jeggings, just like loose jeggings, and like my fade haircut, 2 earrings in, like big diamond earrings. And I've been dancing, like working as a dancer for a couple of months, and I remember getting to this jam, just being like, Marks, can you bring me trackies? like he was like arriving late, and he brought me trackies, and I just changed and just started dressing normally again. Normally for me. Normally for me.
Track pants, for anyone that didn't catch what trackies were.
Yeah, tracksuit bottoms. That was the uniform of a parkour man from 2007 to 2014.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, it was a dark time.
I love it. I still wish I still
the
wish I
garbage man pants.
Oh, they go so hard.
Iconic.
Jeez. Yeah, because they gave us free trackies that were like 3XL. So we're like, hell yeah. Even if they have a fluoro stripe on the bottom, they felt like Foskey's bagginess. So we were like, cool.
I thought they were awesome. Yeah.
And then so from that point, I think that's I want to say October 2012, maybe August, September 2012.
Very good.
From that stage, that is when I was like, I'm going to be a professional athlete. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I'd had
refocused.
it really like changed everything for me, where I was like, hey, everything I do now is in the vein of trying to make it as a professional athlete. I've smelt what that's like on the Team Farang tour. I was within inches of making it into the professional circuit already. I know what it takes now, and I am way more entranced by the future building prospect of being in parkour forever than I am of like the party lifestyle that I was having at that time.
Yeah.
The two weren't even like in the same league.
Yeah.
So that's when I got the job as a garbage man, because Master Marks, he had the job as a garbage man, and he would work in the mornings and then have his afternoons free. And I was like, that sounds appealing. And all of my friends like Antec and Wisey at the time were like, you're not going to enjoy that. Like, you're a figure skater. You're not going to enjoy running on the back of the truck, getting covered in like maggots and baby poo all morning. Like, that's not something that's going to be for you. I took to it like a duck to water. Like, out of all of the friends that Mark's had, me and him like symbiosis with being runners on the back of the truck.
Yeah.
And
you can do it quicker if you are better at it as well, right? You get your run done quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so for a couple of months when I first joined, I was actually doing the midnight shift, which is way more brutal on your like schedule and stuff like that. And I really wasn't getting much training done. Yeah. But then I moved in with Marks and got a contract on one of the morning trucks that those 6 subcontractors that had the control. And as soon as I did that, we would just live together, chill together, and then go and train together like pretty much every single day that our body would allow us.
So you get up kind of almost crack of dawn, do your
Before the
shift.
crack of dawn. You get up at like between 3 and 4.
Yeah.
And you start between 4:30 and 5 o'clock, and then you run until the job's done. Stay until the job's done, and then
How long does the job take to get done?
well, it varies every day. So Monday is like always a longer shift because you're doing household green waste or household cleanup.
Yep.
And usually covering a bigger area with less frequent stopping. But then Tuesday, like 10:30, 11. Wednesday, like 9:30, 10. Thursday, big day, like 11, 11:30. And then Friday, like 9 to 9:30. If you're like at when we were really good, those are like record times.
Right. And then if you can then bring yourself to go out and do sport in the afternoon despite being tired and whatnot, then you had the time. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I started on the trucks when I was 19 and I worked till I was 23, 24.
Yeah.
And during that era of your life, you definitely have the most resilience. But I was also getting messed up at training and then having to go to work in the morning and limp my way through a shift to get it done. Damn. And that sort of like gradual strength building and resistance building by obligation really like gives you something else, like that edge. So when I then got sponsored by Apes in 2014, I had all these years of like, I've got to go to work the next day even if I'm trashed. So then I applied that to parkour. It's like suddenly I had all the time to apply to parkour. So I did. Instead of like just being like, oh cool, I've made it now. I can train the amount I was training to make it. I like doubled down. I went harder. And then 2014 is the same year I got invited to that For the Love of Movement.
Yep.
Started my Instagram, and like the day I started my Instagram, I said this is going to be my job.
Yep.
So I posted from July 2014 until I think it was July 2023. So like 9 years, every single day. Every single day.
Sometimes twice a day.
Sometimes twice a day.
Yeah.
But like every single day, no matter what. And that was like I think the defining dedication that allowed me to like make a profession in the sport. Because and my obligations were really fun to myself in that way. I was like, I need a post, so I have to go out training for at least an hour to like tick off some achievements. Sometimes I go out in my front yard and just film a couple of lines in my front yard of like whatever I was doing.
But it was a job. Like you had to do it.
Yeah, you go out and do it every single day. And like, unless my body literally wouldn't allow me, like for rolled ankle or, you know, like swollen something or yada yada. But still, even then, just going out and doing a couple of lazy vaults with your friends, like it's just, that's what was sustaining everything, that consistency.
And that also, that resilience, mental and physical, that you had to be able to do that as well. Because not everyone could do that, you know.
Yeah, but I think everyone can do it. It's how bad do you want it?
Well, exactly. That's what I mean.
I wanted, and I didn't know exactly what this lifestyle was. I had no idea what I was building, but I knew I wanted the overarching goal was I wanted to be paid to do parkour.
Yeah,
and I had done enough teaching and enough live performances, enough workshops to know that's not how I wanted to do it.
Yep.
I wanted to be sponsored to go out and train parkour with my friends. And for many, many years, like since 2017 when I got sponsored by Red Bull, I had it. Like 60 out of the 365 days, I'd have to go and do some like professional shoots for parkour or do Red Bull videos and stuff like that. The other 300 days, mate, I was on the street training with my friend, making videos. Like no matter what friendships they were in the world where I was, and so by having that purity of what the goal was, it meant that like if I wasn't getting paid that much or whatever, like whatever. At least I have the money.
You're making a living, you can do it.
Yeah, making enough to sustain myself and do parkour and travel around the globe. Like that was sick.
That was the goal. Yeah, it wasn't about longevity. It was about this is what I want to do.
It's about making the most of it.
Yeah. And then so I guess the next two eras were Farang and then Red Bull, which came after Farang, did it?
Correct. So yeah, then in 2015 at the Art of Motion, my second Art of Motion, I made it into the competition this time because I qualified first for the first one, but then ruptured my ACL, and so I couldn't compete. So I was only a reserve. And then the next year came back, did qualifiers, made it through. And I've been doing a lot, like going to China and doing competitions and performances, going to different countries to different jams, like getting myself out there more because I had the time and the freedom. And the Farang guys spoke to me at that Art of Motion and said, hey, next year we're shooting a project with Bounce. We'd love you to come over and just, you know, because obviously we like what you're doing. We like to support you.
Yeah.
Went over to that trip.
But that's already attributed to your grind. Because if you hadn't been grinding regularly, being posting, being active, they wouldn't have even brought you in for the opportunity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was like the fact that I'd gone off on my own after being not taken on board or not starting the team with them. The fact that I'd gone off on my own and completely created my own name journey thing. I didn't expect, I was like, cool, I burned the bridge with Farang. We're not going to be, they don't want to work with me.
Yeah.
And not like just personally, but like they weren't. So I went out and I was like, cool, I have to do everything I can to build my own ship, my own delivery system to make this happen. And so then by doing that, they turned around and said, actually, we really like where your direction is headed and we want to be a part of it. So that again is like that real intensity and that real intentionality behind what my journey was in parkour has then led to them acknowledging that and wanting that as part of what they're doing. And then, I did the videos with them. I was doing regular trips throughout 2017. I'd been to Camp Woodward twice. I'd, done a few more things that were in that outlandish vein, like really, really like high level stuff, like the front flip off the mini mega ramp at Woodward and stuff. That was before I was sponsored by Red Bull. So it was these big moments online that were becoming more and more frequent that then
they knew that they could rely on you for a consistent spectacle that no one else would offer.
Yeah. And I got to the stage, I was 24.
Yep.
And I heard that they stopped sponsoring Red Bull athletes around 25. at the time. That was like some law. I don't even know if it's true. I don't think it is, but that's something I'd heard. So part
It's like
of
a
me,
long-term journey with Red Bull generally.
yeah, they want to sign up early and have you on board for your entire career, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So at that stage, I was like, cool. I'm probably not going to be sponsored by Red Bull, and I'm really glad that I have made it this far. But I'm going to have to keep like really searching to get like different brand deals and like doing the grind that I actually see a lot of parkour athletes doing nowadays.
Yeah.
Whereas like you have to, because you can't rely on that one big brand to pay at least your base way for the other one to give you time to do the other stuff. You have to find these brands that really aren't paying like livable wages and work with multitudes of them again and again and build these relationships up so that you can just stay afloat.
For anyone
doing
that
parkour.
doesn't also know, Red Bull was and is the one brand that will kind of pay you a salary. If you're sponsored
it's
by
a modest salary.
It is modest.
And their view is that they are one of your sponsors. They're not your employer. They're not you.
Yeah.
They, you know, like any other sport, they want to have successful athletes who have multitudes of sponsorships and they're contributing to that.
Yeah.
The thing that Red Bull does incredibly and what they facilitate is manufacturing dreams. You're like, I want to jump on top of the Sydney Opera House, and they will somehow get you the keys to jump on Sydney Opera House, you know?
And they elevate your profile. Being a Red Bull athlete is the greatest stamp of approval as an extreme sports athlete.
Absolutely. They legitimize parkour through everybody's eyes a lot more. Like they do a lot of lifting for the sport in that way. That Rebel Art of Motion competition was fantastic for giving us a global spectacle arena in a really iconic, eye-catching place. Like I still to this day get asked about Art of Motion quite often.
Yeah.
When they ask about the competition, like, oh, I saw you guys, there's a competition on those islands that time. It's like, yeah, Red Bull Art of Motion, because that's the one that the clips carried from. The rhetoric of the scene at that time was that this is how we grade our athletes. You know, we did consider our Red Bull Art of Motion champions to be our highest selectors in the sport.
But even just that name, Red Bull, like if I'm going to describe as simply as possible, like who you are to someone that knows nothing, Red Bull parkour athlete, immediately that says you're absolutely one of the best in the world. You know, it's that stamp of approval.
And what's interesting is that Red Bull still really has a monopoly on that status in the sport.
Yeah.
We don't have any other companies that, as you said, are paying a salary for athletes or giving them the opportunity to do this full time as a craft. There's really just, we don't have that infrastructure. So that's like Red Bull had sponsored a few athletes before me, and I'd seen the journey that Jason and Pasha and stuff had gone on with the brand. And for me, that looked like an exciting premise. Like some people were disenfranchised by it or like don't want to work with certain corporations. For me, everything that Jason and Pasha was doing was like the dream. It was the coolest stuff ever, running through the airport. And I was like, yes.
And you've always drunk Red Bull anyway.
I mean, yeah, that I am the purest athlete, because even before I signed up with them, I was only drinking Red Bull as my only energy drink. Because when I was working on the garbage trucks, I'd spend the mornings on the back of the truck and we'd have an energy drink in our break. And so I'd gone through all the other ones and be like, genuinely don't really like the taste or the effects or whatever of all these different ones. Red Bull was my one. I had my system, and then I got sponsored. And so
how did you get sponsored? Like, I think people are probably quite curious about this. Like,
the biggest thing that I did was I went to Red Bull Art of Motion competition in 2014. And I did really well in the opening rounds, in the qualifiers.
That is how a few people have got sponsored, right?
Yes, that is actually how majority of athletes have gotten sponsored in Red Bull.
Okay.
The general way is to be at a competition, ideally Red Bull sponsors, and then place very highly, or be placing very highly at world ranked competitions throughout the year.
Which is so interesting because that's how you got in front of them, but that's obviously not your forte at all, right?
No. So then from there, it was like they had eyes on me. We had some sort of like loose email communication. Okay. But again, it's like what happened with Farang. From that moment, from that Art of Motion where I realized, I'm in, like, this is the closest I've ever been. I'm talking to Red Bull people.
Yeah, yeah.
This is it doesn't get closer than that. So from there, it was like, again, doubling down, locking in, whatever you want to call it. It was like pushing myself even harder because the chance of success was there. Not because I'd gone and I'd missed the window and been injured. No, suddenly, everything I did, I was putting myself out there, getting to every single event I could, really trying to make the most of and activate as many opportunities as possible for this thing to work.
And doing some pretty sick jumps.
Yeah, but making sure that if I did sick jumps, they were captured and I was posting them online. I had consistency and regularity. There was like a method to the madness.
Yeah.
I used to say to people, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing everything I can. Every single action, every single like.
It's a good way to put it.
I have no idea where this is going. I have no idea what this is going to create. But I remember like one night at For the Love Movement, I think it was 2017 or 18, I was with Jaden. And, you know, at that point I was making daily vlogs.
Yeah.
And so I would finish the event day and then I would sit there for 3 hours while everyone's like having a few drinks, chatting to each other and that sort of thing. I would sit down with my laptop and be editing while next to them. Be like, yeah, sorry. Yeah. And like, I remember Jay being like, man, when are you going to be like done with this? Because like, it's like, you know, we hang out all the time, but we don't get to hang out in these little like after the day where like I'm kicking back because you're just like fully working all the time. So until it works. Yeah. Until I don't need to do it anymore. Yeah. And
because Jason went through that as well. He would be editing till 3 a.m. a lot of nights. I'd see him at events. You've seen that grind, you know. I was always very impressed by him and by you in that respect, you know.
In any industry or sport, you need to be doing more than anybody else is doing. And in parkour, you need to be doing that even more intensely because it's like you can't just be showing up to the gym first and leaving the gym late for parkour. That's not going to make you an athlete, like a professional athlete in this industry. Unfortunately and fortunately, there's so much more that goes into it. It's not at all just the jumps you do, because I personally know hundreds of practitioners that are the best, number one, highest, whatever you want to call it. Like there's no grading system, but these guys are incredible. These women are incredible. They should be sponsored athletes. I've seen so many athletes around the world who I meet, I'm just completely blown away by, and they could be working as professionals, but it's either like not their choice to do it or they don't understand the other aspects that go into building that profile and making a consistent living, because they either weren't given the tools, their country doesn't have the infrastructure, or they personally just don't care. That's another one. A lot of the most talented people I've met in the world just don't care. I don't want to be a sponsored athlete. That sounds like effort.
It's not like we're all competing for 5 or 10 sponsored athlete roles as well. It's like they go after certain people. So like with yourself, you know, you land this Rebel sponsorship, but it's not like, oh, they would have sponsored another Australian if they didn't get you. It's like, no, you built a profile to the point where they wanted you. You know, I see this like, you know, it's a good example, Lilu. Lilu does a lot of big brand work now, and it's not like they would have got a different parkour athlete if it wasn't for her. It's like, no, they wanted Lilu, you know, and if it wasn't Lilu, they'd just do something else, right?
Yeah, Lilu's my goat. She's so, like her delivery and execution from not only the sportive and athletic side, where she's an absolute beast, an absolute freak, but it's the articulation of the media presented around it. It's the thought process that goes into the design of the clothing, to the photos she's shooting, and it's very much like she really flexes in her art. And something that stood out to me recently was we did like a little short reel together where I like pick her up by the hood and then throw her into the water. It's like an internet trend. And we tried to like take it and put it on its head. But she would not accept the request because her makeup was running in it. Yeah. And at first I was like, oh, you're just being so pedantic. But then I realized when Lily puts something out, it's so curated. It's so refined, and she is a perfectionist, which is what makes her so fantastic. And so me trying to like just put out this thing that I'm not I just put out whatever, we didn't line up on those values, and that's what makes her so powerful, but also so appealing to brands and stuff like that. Because she's not going to put out something unpolished and then have brands look at it and be like, oh, well, maybe she's not. You know, everything she does is going to have that finesse that she dials in. She's
had her photography shared by the Instagram account twice. Like, she's a proper artist. But I guess the point I'm trying to make here is not that you guys are like, it's not just that you're like the best and you've got the opportunity available. It's like you've carved it out for yourself. You know, you've built a profile to the point where they wanted you. And that's kind of the way you have to do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I also, this is like a pride thing, I don't like asking for things. I've gotten better at it in my adult years, especially now that I'm not so worried about like, if I'm asking to come along to something, it's just because I want to come along, I'm not asking because like, oh, I need this leg up or like help to get there. Like, but yeah, like I wanted to do enough that people would come and approach me.
Yes.
That was like like if I'm just putting endless amounts of media content and then being at every single event in the world and just being as present as possible in the city, how are you going to ignore me? How are you going to, when you think about parkour, you're going to synonymously think about me as a brand. So I'm like, cool. That's like what I was trying to put myself in the position of without knowing what that position really was.
Yeah, absolutely. And so now, you've had a few years on Red Bull. You've done loads of awesome projects with them. You do maybe one cool project with them a year, and that's progressing. But I want to talk about also this current pivot, progression, let's say, into a bit of reality TV, into a bit of that kind of world, because you've had a few cool opportunities in that vein. Are you looking to grow that kind of thing as, I don't know, for the next couple of decades, or what's the go there? Because I guess the place to start is Physical Asia, the Netflix show, where you were on Team Australia. And not only were you on Team Australia, but you actually got one of the most air times of anyone, because it's like we talked about at the start of the podcast, you were genuinely gassed to people, you were super supportive, you were a great team player, and you spoke good English.
Yeah, fair. I mean, this was their first push into a global market, and I think the fact that we were an English-speaking team very much helped them lay that groundwork for future projects they're going to do. But it's interesting. This is like an interesting perspective, the way you say pivot or the way you say you've transitioned. I was asked by a TV show, would I like to be on this TV show? I said yes. I'm not intentionally changing my ways or doing like, this is what a lot of people think is like, when you do something different, he's like, oh, he's changed. I was given an opportunity. I took the opportunity. And if people in parkour want to see that as like he's stepping out into the reality TV world, great, cool. I took a job and I tried to make that job as much about parkour as possible in both veins that I did it, both in the national Australian show and the international Netflix show. I tried 100% again to represent the sport of parkour on a global stage. And I'm not pivoting into being a TV star, or I'm not pivoting into, I'm just doing what comes,
It's still just parkour passion.
Yeah, I did some parkour consultation for a stunt for a film last year, and then I was like, oh, I'm going to be a stuntman this year for this job. It didn't come through. It didn't pan out. Cool. Like I'm not pivoting to be a stuntman either. Yeah. Like I don't see where the intentionality direction isn't dictated by what is externally given to you.
No, that's a really great point. So you're still...
What I want to be doing every day is training parkour with my friends and making videos, or making clips. That's like, I don't...
And it's just the opportunities coming off the back of that from putting yourself out there. Like
and who am I to then turn down and snub paid work that is then coming off the heels of that, especially when it's still, because I've done so much framing about it being around parkour. When I go to a fitness festival, I'm not there taking a workout. I'm there teaching a parkour workshop. Yeah. I'm building my dream of making parkour as accessible to as many people as possible. That's literally my North Star. Which makes you the perfect
ambassador when you do get these opportunities, right? And it's good to hear that. Like the passion's 100% the same.
Yeah, like if I had it my way, I would have been training more, but I have jobs and shoots and things that my life has gotten a little bit more busy in this position that I'm in. But instead of being like, oh, I'm going to reject all this work so that I can do what I want, I'm going to accept that, as you said, I am kind of a spokesperson. I am in this role. I did kind of ask for all this attention. So, like, who am I to then, like, not accept some sort of responsibility for it? And also, I'm allowed to be myself outside of parkour. My whole identity doesn't have to be this one thing. I don't think it's healthy if it is.
Actually, that's interesting, because I have that question now. How much of your identity is built around parkour? Which I'm sort of curious about, right?
I would say for a very long time, it was 95% of what I revolved my identity around. Not was my identity, but what I revolved my whole identity around.
It's like linked. Yeah.
Linked. Now it's like 80%, but everyone's like, oh, or like, it's not, doing all these like silly videos. Like, yeah, cool. Yeah. Because I'm still doing silly videos with people that I did a TV show on Netflix about that I did parkour on. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm still doing, it's just that I want to do. Yeah,
no, absolutely. So it's never an inkling of like leaving the sport behind and doing something else. It's just
even sometimes my manager's like, yeah, but we want to like, pivot to mainstream. And I'm like, no, I actually don't. Like, I actually don't. I'm not trying to get more followers or build a bigger audience. Like if that happens, great. But that's not what my goals are. I'm not like aspiring to be some like the world's greatest influencer, content creator, the world's most. No, I don't know, because like that's not what I want to do parkour, and I want to promote parkour, and so whatever that then trickles into and deems into my own personal success, that's I'm just grateful for it.
Oh no, fantastic!
I'm super happy that like I got asked to do a Netflix show against a bunch of like the world's best fighters and Olympic athletes, and like even just being in the same room and being involved in that's the sick part. That's the exciting part, is like that I'm being put into the same vein as these people that are just absolutely incredible, phenomenal athletes and humans.
Yeah. Oh, no, 100%. I mean, that's what makes you the perfect ambassador for the sport. And no, it's interesting to hear your mindset, because obviously your manager who you introduced me to is one of my main clients. You know, I'm super grateful for that. And I work with him a lot. And we talk about this stuff sometimes, but it's interesting to hear that like parkour being the center of what you want to do and sort of will be for the foreseeable, right?
Yeah, I don't like, yeah, cool. It can be like Dom tries other things or whatever, but I've never built my brand around like knowing what I eat and knowing about my life. I'm doing it for the sport, and if I'm not doing it for the sport, I sometimes don't find it as enjoyable. I like just want to be accurately, or somewhat at least from my perspective, showcasing the sport for what it is and the people involved.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess so. We talked about the Instagram and about like all this reality TV stuff, the Red Bull stuff. You've also still quite active with your YouTube, you know, and doing some cool stuff there. So what's your plan with the YouTube right now?
Make a video when I have an idea about making a video.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty
it's like
plan.
I don't know. For clarity, for people who have been watching me for many, many years, YouTube has actually never been my number one source of income, or even like a sustainable source of income for me. Every video that you've seen me make over the years has been purely out of the passion of wanting to make parkour videos, or like some self-obligation. I decided I'm going to make this many videos a week, and just lived that out until it felt like it was unnatural to continue to do so. So YouTube is like, it's like my little art project that's always gone side along with my jumping. And that's what it will continue to be. I'm actually flirting with the idea of live streaming, specifically live streaming parkour sessions. I think
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, just like it also, in the streaming culture, we don't have, or in the streaming world, it doesn't seem like we have a lot of things that are based on following an activity. It's like live sports, and then it's streaming in people's rooms, or it's streaming like day-to-day life, like walking around, interacting. There's not a huge scope or any like ones that spring to mind of like following people around. I think that way, if an audience doesn't do parkour, within one session, they can fully understand what parkour is and like what goes into the day and what the feel of the sport is, what the feel of the people are, how that supportive stuff comes. I think it would actually be a nice way to translate that.
No, 100%. And I think I would love to see that happen. I think you're uniquely positioned to do it. And I think that would be like a really good way to put on parkour, which is always what you're trying to do, to be like a great ambassador for the sport as well. On the YouTube thing as well, I think that's a very mature perspective. Like, obviously I run like a YouTube show for a living. That's like my main job, like outside of this. And I'm very clued into that space. And unfortunately, the previous method on YouTube of making a video every week, and like constant grind isn't as effective anymore. Whereas now making single concept videos with a very strong title and thumbnail of like, we're going to try this, we're going to do this with a real challenge involved, that's what's more successful. And that I think is what you've discovered as well.
Yeah, right now on YouTube, the current landscape for whatever it's changed to is you need high production, homemade feel.
Yes, that's such a good way to put it. Oh, wow, yeah.
Still needs to feel like it's a home video, but if you don't have the production markers of an actual high production video, you'll fall out. You'll struggle. Like you're like, you know, if your audio is not synced, if your levels aren't done, if your color's not corrected, if anything, there's so many things that people are just like, ugh.
Because the standard's so high, but they want the authenticity of a GoPro in the action, not a camera guy miles away, right?
Correct.
Yeah, 100%. I guess to finish on, I'll ask the question that I always ask on this podcast, and we always get different answers to it, which is, what are the main transferable skills you feel like parkour has given you in other aspects to bring into other aspects of life?
Risk assessment, risk tolerance, self-confidence to like back myself in my decisions. A digestible and understandable relationship with fear. That's not saying I'm fearless, but it's really like knowing the ins and outs of how I react to a anxious or scary situation.
Brilliant. Yeah. And I guess any final goals anywhere, anything you're looking to try and accomplish soon? I mean, you've got that secret video project. Anything you want to tease, or is there anything you're really like got your mind set on now for the next few years, or are you just sort of enjoying it as it comes?
It's comeback season, so
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Watch this space. I still think give me a couple months, but over the next year, you're going to see start to see really regular high intensity action again, just because it's what I like to do.
This summer.
Yeah, come baby.
On. All the doubters, anyone who thinks Dom's past his prime, yeah, come on, wait and watch. Let's see.
See if this space is a washing machine or in fact a dryer.
Come on now. Nah, don't be doubting my boy Dom. Let's not have that. Look, thank you so much for coming on. I've wanted to do this one ever since I started the pod.
Woo!
You just haven't been in the UK enough, so we got to sort that out.
Yeah, I'll be back more regularly.
Back regularly. Look, thanks so much, man. Parkour.uk, best URL in the business if you want community news, where to start our sport, video projects, other podcasts. Get on there, man. Thanks so much for having us.